So I've been asked to do a review on both the scooter and the motorcycle and ownership. Now, because it's the warmer weather, some of you may be trying to figure out which type of vehicle is going to be best suited for you. Should you buy a motorcycle or should you get a scooter? And the answers to those questions are going to really be determined by demographics, where you live, what your needs, what your basic needs are, whether you need storage space, how much distance you have to travel, and of course cost. Now obviously the cost of the scooter is, in this case, a 50cc scooter or sub 50 cc's, is obviously going to be cheaper than owning a 250cc motorcycle. The other cost factor that makes the scooter more economically viable is that if it's under 50 cc's, in most states you're not required to register or insure it, which means that you don't pay property tax on it, and you can pretty much find parking for it anywhere. You can actually park the scooter on the sidewalk in front of a store or wherever you happen to go. And then of course there's also the convenience factor of being able to, you have ample storage underneath the seat area. You can usually put a bag of groceries under the seat. You can also use the area sculpted out there between the seat and the handlebars, where your legs are usually positioned on the platform. Typically many people will use that to carry items, or that area there. You can also buy a top case for additional storage that mounts on the back of the scooter as well. These smaller scooters tend to be highly fuel efficient. If it's a good scooter, it will get you around town, and it's sufficiently fast enough. It will. This particular scooter, top speed is rated anywhere between 39 and 43 miles an hour. I believe the manufacturer, according to Honda, said that top speed that can be achieved on this scooter, the way it's set up in stock trim, is 43 miles an hour. Okay, now to the motorcycle. Okay, so what are the advantages of the motorcycle over the scooter? Well, for openers, you can travel greater distances, higher speeds. You can travel on more types of roads than you can with the scooter. 250 cc's or above usually permits the rider to travel on interstate roads and divided highways at higher speeds, and just generally get to where you need to go much faster. And if you want to look at it this way, a scooter is really more, in my opinion, a more practical form of transportation, especially with respect to riding in urban areas. Because the thing with a scooter is you can mount on and off the scooter relatively quickly. You can start it relatively quickly, and typically most of the new scooters are all automatic, continuously variable transmission scooters, which means there's no shifting of gears. So it's just basically what they call a twist and go. So you can basically run around about town, no shifting of gears and that sort of thing. With respect to the bike, you have to mount the bike, you have to make sure it's in neutral. There's a process in starting the bike up. Typically you want to allow a motorcycle to warm up a little bit more. Obviously a motorcycle is going to consume more fuel. Obviously it's a higher priced ticket item. You have to register the vehicle, you have to insure the vehicle, and also I would say that maintenance is a little bit more intense. You have to pay attention to the maintenance on a motorcycle more so than you do a scooter. Okay, so from a practical and economical standpoint, particularly in an urban area, a scooter is probably going to be a better form of transportation if you're trying to save money and you don't want to have to jump through all the hoops of worrying about registration, insurance, paying property tax, and that sort of thing. The other aspect of it is it escapes me right now, but let me see if I can recall. Okay, so owning a motorcycle, as we've concluded, is a much more cost-intensive proposition than the ownership of a scooter. Now, this particular analogy really applies to scooters that are really intended for local urban areas, going anywhere from like 1 to 3 miles of your place of residence. And in that case, I would highly recommend anybody who is contemplating purchasing a motorcycle that wants to get around town, I would discourage you from doing that. And the only reason I would discourage you from doing that is if you're really only thinking about being economically wise and just being practical. I would say that a 50cc scooter is sufficient and more than enough vehicle to get you around town to where you need to go. $5 of fuel will last you anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how often you use the bike. And of course, if you're doing a lot of riding on a motorcycle, obviously that's going to be a lot more money because you'll be traveling more distances. But still, actually, if you're comparing the motorcycle to a car, and in this case a 250cc motorcycle, you're going to do much better on the insurance angle and much better. So you have sort of a tiered placement for the a tiered placement of with respect to what kind of transportation you're looking to get into and how much you can theoretically afford. Now, obviously, also getting a motorcycle presents the prospect of having to take the MSF class, which I believe now is mandatory in all 50 states. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But it's compulsory now, so that's about a $200 proposition there. And then you have to another $100 when you get to the motor vehicle to get to take an additional like 12-question test or whatever their state requires you to do, and then obviously the purchase of the bike. If you're financing it, there's the interest on the bike, and then of course the registration fees that are typically rolled into the cost of the bike and that sort of thing. Also, there is the insurance aspect of the bike. The 600 Super Sports, if you're financing it brand new, depending on where you are, if you're financing the full cost of the bike, the insurance company is going to want full coverage on the bike, and that's going to be a hugely expensive proposition, and almost, in my opinion, unless you are a hedge fund manager, a banker, or a philanthropist, you're probably not going to be able to afford one of the higher powered bikes, and that's why I would recommend getting just something like a 250 or a 650, something that's in a different category other than the super sports. If you pay cash for the bike, obviously that's going to dramatically reduce your cost in insurance premiums. You don't have to put collision on the bike, and you can just put the bare minimum liability. I actually priced out a leader bike, a used leader bike that was like about 6 or 7 years old, and just the basic minimum coverage on it was something like about $150 for the year. So if you can afford to pay full price for the bike, or get a used bike, a super sport bike, if that's really what you're looking for, and you don't want the high insurance premiums, then you better be prepared to basically pay full freight for the bike. In other words, cash for the bike, and that way you're just paying liability insurance on the motorcycle. A lower powered bike that you finance, the insurance is relatively low and affordable, and they're still fun to ride. So any other questions or comments, please leave them on the thing. If there's something that I left out that you would like me to include in another video, please feel free to extend me the courtesy of leaving the comment in the box below. And I hope you guys are all well, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. I'll just ride it around the parking lot.
I want to take it on the road.
All right, I'll just take it. I'll just take it up the.
No access. Don't worry about it.
All right. V7 class.